What's up everybody, SuperDurks fan here for another car review. This is of course the 2012 Lexus IS F. Huge thanks to BJ for providing me with his very nice, very clean IS F to review for you guys today. So about the 2012 ISF, well, they had a few updates here back even starting with 2010, and now here for 2012 you have these new headlights that were refreshed actually in 2011 and look really good now with the LED elements, and you have these new wheels here for 2012 which are a very cool look as well and are a little bit wider than the previous wheels of the past. And overall I just love the way the ISF is styled. I mean, you have this bulging hood here, you know, that houses the V8 engine. You have the very wide bulging fenders. I mean, it looks completely different from a standard IS. And in the back there you even have some nice little flares, and you of course have the now signature stacked exhaust tips there on both sides as well. And overall it's just unmistakable you know, for anything else. It's so bold, so aggressive there, and I love even that front bumper, the way it's sculpted and kind of juts out like it's got a very prominent jaw. It's just a very, very cool look to it, and so overall I think it's a really cool looking vehicle. Right, for the interior of the ISF, it's a very cool place to be, very colorful as you can see here. But anyway, first things first, sitting down in these seats, very nice seats that are unique to the F, of course, and so very aggressive bolstering here up by the torso. Now it's still wide enough that it's fitting for a luxury vehicle. It's not race car like or anything like that, but they certainly have really nice bolstering. Unfortunately, I don't believe it's adjustable, but it's still, you know, pretty snug. You know, even someone with a smaller frame like myself should feel pretty snug in these seats. And you know, the thigh support is also pretty good, although a little bit on the wide side, but overall I think they're actually pretty good seats. They're pretty comfortable as well, and yeah, so I like them a lot. Next to the steering wheel in the ISF, which is really nice. This perforated leather looks great. I love the little red portion here at the bottom with the F badge. But yeah, just some actual metal trim on it, which feels great. You have metal paddles here behind the wheel that are mounted to the wheel and feel good as well. But it's still just a nice, simple wheel. You have a nice, the sport button is right on the wheel, which is a very cool thing and very convenient. And you know, a few other basic buttons. But 9 and 3 grip is great. 10 and 2 notches are small, but are nice there. And you know, it's a little bit of a thinner wheel. It would be nice if it was a little thicker to make it a little beefier, but they did correct that with the GSF, which does have a beefier wheel. But this still feels really nice, and it's overall a great wheel. Next to the gauges in the ISF, which are very cool, inspired by the LFA, although they're not fully digital like you see in some of the newer Lexuses, but I still love it. You have that huge tachometer front and center there, and so you also have a digital speedometer as well as an analog speedometer there off to the right hand side that goes up to 200 miles per hour. And then, you know, otherwise that's really it. You have a tiny little screen there in the upper left corner. You can scroll through some of your basic, you know, trip information, things like that, and then you have a digital readout for your other 3 auxiliary gauges there as well. And so really a clean, simple layout. I really love the way they, you know, laid everything out, and overall very clear, easy to read, and just really attractive as well. Coming over to the center of the dashboard here, this is where it's typical Lexus for the time, you know, a 2012 Lexus with, you know, navigation, all that kind of stuff that looks a little dated. You know, the screen isn't the highest of resolutions, but again, we're talking about a 5-year-old car here, so we have to, you know, give it a little bit of a pass. I like how they actually at least were touchscreen back then, unlike some of the others with knobs and stuff, so it's still very easy to, you know, get to everything, and you have the shortcut buttons there, and so not too hard to navigate. Your basic auto climate controls is all very easy to use as well. And then, you know, you have your volume and tune knob, which is nice to have. And so, I mean, just, you know, it's a Mark Levinson premium surround sound system as well. So you do have that additional little bit of luxury there with, you know, a better sound system than a standard Lexus. But overall, just, you know, a nice and simple head unit here for the most part. Coming down, you'll see this silvery carbon fiber trim. I'm not sure if it's actual real carbon fiber, but it does look very cool regardless. And then you have your heated seat controls and a red shifter lever, and yeah, otherwise it's just, I love the colors in here, you know, with the red leather. You have blue stitching on the wheel and on the armrest and things like that, and then you have this silvery carbon fiber. It just really helps to make this interior look a lot more exciting than some of its competitors, where it was just a sea of black plastic everywhere. So very nicely done. As far as storage space in the ISF, it's not bad. So first off here on the doors, you have a map pocket, which does open up, by the way, and it also does have a spot for a bottle holder here, so nice to have that. And then coming over to the center here, this is where it's a little more limited. You just have a cigarette lighter and ashtray combo there, and then you have one cup holder, which is hidden here behind this little cover. And then you would think that, oh no, it's only one cup holder, but you slide back the center armrest, which is very nice and softly padded, by the way, and you slide that back, and then you'll see your second cup holder there, and then you continue to slide this back and then up. And that's how you access this little center armrest, which isn't super roomy, but it's large enough to fit, you know, cell phones, wallets, things like that. You do also have a hook up there for an auxiliary jack, USB jack, and also a power outlet. So nice to have all of those in there. And so overall, you know, not a ton of space, enough to get you by, you know, and about standard for stuff of this time period, but certainly not the greatest. Backseat space in the ISF is pretty good. So I'm 5'9", me sitting behind myself. I still have several inches of legroom there to spare. I mean, this is, you know, a pretty roomy vehicle there in the back. Although there is some people apparently must have issues with the headroom. I'm 5'9", I still have plenty of inches of headroom, but they have a very clever solution for those that do want more headroom there in the back. And they say it's because of the sloping roofline. You can actually adjust those headrests and have them so it like kind of leans your head forward a little bit so that you have more headroom there. I'm not sure how comfortable that would be, but that's something they deliberately built in to help those that need more headroom and kind of position your head a little bit further forward where you will have a little bit more headroom there. So very clever fix there. Another interesting note about the back seat area is those rear seats do not fold down. The reason why, in a normal IS they do, but in the ISF they don't, because they wanted to add additional rigidity, and so by having that fixed, they were able to add some additional rigidity there in the back. And so another very cool little Easter egg here about the ISF. Trunk space in the ISF is pretty good. You know, it's about average for the segment. You know, it's not an enormous trunk, but certainly on par with all the other sedans out there. And it should be plenty for, you know, putting a couple of suitcases in there and, you know, having enough, you know, room for luggage. And so overall, pretty good trunk. All right, so start up and go for a drive. The ISF has keyless entry and push button start, so you just leave the key in your pocket, hit the engine start button, roars to life. Alright, so setting off in the 2012 Lexus ISF. So the first thing that you notice here about these is you actually have a very good view forward. You know, even though you have this bulging hood, it drops down nice enough that you don't really have to, you know, look out over it. It's not in the way or anything like that. And then otherwise, you know, view out of the sides is pretty good here. You have about your typical, you know, sedan visibility, and view out of the back is great too. Well, pretty large rear window. So overall, visibility is pretty good so far. Another thing that you notice here about the ISF is, although it's got this big 5-liter V8 engine, it's still very docile around town here. It's not really loud even. It's just very subdued, and you know, if you were blindfolded, you wouldn't even realize you were in an ISF. You'd think it's just a normal IS because it's still a very smooth, comfortable, quiet, and refined ride like you would expect from any other Lexus. Another thing you notice just cruising around as well is that this automatic transmission, the shifts are almost indiscernible. It's an 8-speed automatic here in the ISF, and it's just so incredibly smooth whenever you're just, again, putting around town. You have to actually pay attention to even, you know, see if it's shifting, because it just does it all without you even noticing. It's a very smooth automatic whenever you're just relaxed driving. Alrighty, so let's turn on to this back road here. See how it does. Here we go. The back end's getting squirrely. I like it. It does put down the power well though. So the ISF has a 5-liter V8 engine, 416 horsepower, and then it actually has 371 pound-feet of torque. And oh, and you listen to that induction note here. Let's even just roll the windows up. Listen to that. It's awesome sounding, especially it's almost got like a VTEC type of sensation that really kicks in at like $5,000, and that's where it just screams. You got those shift lights and a little beep there to let you know, and it's just, I love the way that it sounds though. It's great. It's not as high revving as, you know, like the E92 M3 V8, but it's, oh, I just love it. And I mean, this one, I think this V8 engine would probably last a whole lot longer than that M3 motor. So, oh, it just sounds great though. And it's got, I mean, for only 371 pound-feet of torque, I'm really impressed with just how much torque it actually feels like it has. It feels like it's got got way more than that. And so really I'm impressed with how this thing pulls. And when you're in sport mode here, the downshifts are also pretty quick. Now this is an 8-speed automatic, and it's one of the older ones, of course, but it does a good job. Does a really good job of shifting up nice and quick. So this it is a torque converter automatic, but after I think first and second gear, it just locks up so that it's a 1-to-1 thing, and so it's pretty quick. Even on some rougher roads here now, we got a few little bumps and things like that though, and even at speed, it really soaks them up well. So I'm really impressed with just how luxurious it still feels, even though it still feels very solid in those couple of corners that we did go around. We'll be going around some more as well, but I just really love the blend of the luxury and the sportiness here that this suspension has. And another acceleration, because why not? Oh man, this is great. It does really, you have to treat this like a Honda motor. I mean, it has a good amount of pep down low, but it's really, those upper RPMs is where it is at with this engine. I love it. It sounds so good too. Oh man, it's an intoxicating sound. Going around a couple of corners here now, just to get a little bit of a feeling for the suspension. And this is a big sweeping corner here, but even, I mean, this is a high-speed corner, and it still feels nice and buttoned down. If I try and push it a little bit more, there isn't too much lean. It's pretty stable, and it feels pretty good. That handling is also helped by a pretty low weight for a luxury sedan here. These weigh around 3,700 pounds. This one might even be a few pounds lighter here on the upper part, because there is no moonroof here, which is a rare option here for the ISFs. Most of them did have a moonroof. This one doesn't though, so it gives you a little bit of a lower center of gravity there, and I think they actually say it could remove around 100 pounds out of the roof of the car, so it really helps to make it feel really sharp, and it does feel really nice here. And the cool thing is, these don't even have to run super wide tires to feel really competent. It's only like 225s up front and 255s in the rear, and so I mean that's plenty, for putting down the power well, and being able to handle well enough that it's very impressive how it makes do without having huge numbers as far as engine and tire specs and all that kind of stuff, and still feels like a really tight package. Yeah, that surging you get whenever you're going right from 3 and crossing over, almost like it feels like that other cam there to 4, and then it just screams and feels awesome. Other things to note here about the ISF is the brakes actually have a really nice and beefy feel. There is a decent amount of travel before you get into the meat of the pad there, but it certainly hauls you down to a stop really, really well. And I really I'm impressed with this transmission. It's really quick and sharp for, again, a 2012 model year vehicle. Downshifts are, almost immediate. Same goes for the upshifts. I mean, it's only a tick behind a ZF 8-speed. And again, for something from 2012 that wasn't dual clutch, this is a really impressive transmission that I think doesn't get enough credit. And, another nice thing about this transmission is you still do have the slap shift feature down here with the gear shifter. So you can, especially if you're doing like low speed maneuvers and you want to go from first to second, then with those, you can just use the gear shifter, and it's nice. The surge you even get a little bit of the front end lifting up whenever you do that acceleration though. It's just great. But anyway, other things to note here. The throttle response is really razor sharp, especially here in the sport mode. I mean, if you take it out of sport mode, you can kind of dull it a little bit if you want, but it's really ideal, I think, honestly. And another thing that also feels pretty good is the steering, which again changes whenever you put it into sport mode. Makes it a little bit firmer, and it feels good though. It's got a good amount of feedback. It still feels organic, since it is thankfully a hydraulic rack. It's not electric like so many modern vehicles. So it gives you some of that kind of old school type of feeling and driver involvement with the steering. And so overall, it feels like a really great package, and it feels really solid too. That's something that I always kind of get as a vibe from all Lexus products. They're all very solid. There really isn't any rattles from the car itself. Everything feels really well put together, and it feels really solid on the road as well. And it doesn't feel, it feels a little bit heavier, but it's not like a heavy feeling even. It just feels good and feels like it's gonna last a long time. And it will kick the back end out there if you push it. it's great that these are rear-wheel drive, you know, so you can slide it around all you want, and you know, it does actually, you know, have a traction and stability control system, but it does let you play a little bit there, as you can see. You know, it didn't immediately pull back power as soon as I, you know, started getting the rear wheels sliding a little bit. It does, you know, let you have some fun too, which is good. But yes, that's really it here as far as the ISF. It's a really fun thing to drive, and I mean, there aren't too many tight corners here in this part of Ohio, but on the few corners I took it around, it still was a really sharp thing. And you know, I mean, I think even back in the day, these were matching the M3 for lap times around like VIR and some of these other racetracks. So I mean, it's really, I think, an underrated vehicle. You know, I think everyone, you know, this era of vehicle looks at the M3 because of its higher revving V8 engine and just the fact that it's BMW M3, and they say that's what they want. But honestly, this is really so underrated. I feel like this deserves a good look if you're in the market for something rear-wheel drive, 4 doors, you know, in this price range. And these hold their value really well as well, actually better than M3s of this era as well. So, you know, it's one of those things that I think this is a little more reliable, probably will have lower maintenance costs over the long run than a BMW would. And so I think this actually might be the one if you're looking for something, again, especially even higher mileage or something. I feel like you'd be less scared of a higher mileage Lexus than a higher mileage BMW. And it's just, I think it's still just a ton of fun to drive. It's a really great thing. There aren't too many tight corners in this part of Ohio here to really test out the suspension hardcore, but from the few corners I took it around, it felt really tight. And so overall, just a really well done package here by Lexus. And I like I said, it's a shame that these didn't sell better and there aren't tons of them around, and I really wish they made a modern ISF as well. I mean, obviously these days they have this motor tuned up here in the GSF. But yeah, I mean, the only thing I think I could criticize this car for is not having a louder exhaust system. But again, these days, you know, there are active exhausts and things like that. But back in 2012, that wasn't really a thing, and loud exhaust on factory vehicles wasn't really commonplace. So it's very easy to fix, obviously. Just put an exhaust system on it and you're set. And I think that would really help to uncork some of this glorious V8 sounds, because right now you just get a lot of induction sound, which is wonderful, but you don't really get anything out of the exhaust really. And so that's the only thing that's missing, is with a great exhaust, this would further the experience even more and make it sound even more spectacular. But otherwise, like I said, it's just a really great thing. So huge thanks to BJ once again for allowing me to review his baby here. This one is so pristine. It's all stock, less than 30,000 miles, and so really thankful to him for providing this very clean example for me to review for you guys today. So anyway, let me know your thoughts about the ISF and whether you have this or an M3 personally for yourselves. And thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.